Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 77, round 1. Begin. The episode begins with a whole bunch of Pallet Town residents, along with Ash's mom and Oak, all having gathered at Oak's lab to cheer on both Ash and Gary in the Pokemon League. Of course, with Ash's mom primarily cheering for Ash. They're watching a news broadcast informing them that the Pokemon League was about to begin as Ash, Brock, and Misty walk by the camera, which leads everyone in the room to cheer. Pallet Town was going to be represented, baby! Meanwhile, Ash was trying his best to get registered for the Pokemon League, but Brock was distracting the registration lady by flirting with her, due to being the simp that he was, but fortunately, Misty drags him off, simply being annoyed by Brock's usual antics. Relieving the girl, who was annoyed by Brock, and also relieving Ash, who wanted to appear as professional as possible, and Brock being an idiot certainly wasn't helping. Ash then hands the registration lady his Pokedex, and she proceeds to take it and register him for the Pokemon League. Yeah, let's go! With Ash now ready to begin his first round battle, he excitedly asked the reception lady who his opponent was going to be, adding how excited he was to finally battle in the fated Indigo Stadium, the main stadium of the Kanto Pokemon League. However, Brock then returned from Misty's punishment and informed Ash that he wouldn't be battling at the main stadium right away, instead having to battle in 4 different elemental fields first, being water, grass, fire, and ice. So essentially, what this meant was a trainer had to prove themselves in specific conditions. So for example, in the water stage, you had to battle in the water, in the grass stage, you had to battle on grass, ice stage, ice, etc. I have to admit, this was very unique for the anime's first Pokemon League. Like, all the other leagues were just, like, regular-ass round-robin, or not round-robin, but just regular-ass, like, tournaments, you know? Like, you fight one person, then you move on to the next round, etc. But, this league actually had different rules, which was nice. Anyways, Ash questioned Brock on how he knew something about the Pokemon League that Ash didn't, with Ash being the one competing, with Brock revealing that he had actually been studying up on the Pokemon League handbook, all in an attempt to try and impress the registration girl. The registration girl gets embarrassed at this, as do Ash and Misty, as Misty proceeds to punish Brock yet again, dragging him off. With Brock dealt with, Ash then goes back to his original question, asking who he was battling first. The registration lady then pulls out a button and tells Ash to press it, explaining that it was a randomizer button, and essentially the field would be picked at random. So Ash presses the button, and it lands on the water stage, so Ash was going to have to battle in the water first. The registration lady then sent Ash off, as she further confirmed to him that his opponent would be a dude named Mandy. That's the one downside about this league, is that Ash has no rivals aside from Gary, so we have no fucking clue who this Mandy guy was. Meanwhile, despite being almost murdered by Moltres in the last episode, Team Rocket were back, unharmed. Great! They had a new plan this time, which was to pose as reporters and interview trainers at the league and find out which Pokemon they had, and if they managed to find any trainers with rare Pokemon, then they would steal them. They expected to find a lot of good trainers at the league, but they've had many bad tries so far, including one where they went up to a trainer and all that he had was a Dodrio, Venomoth, and Raticate. Now, I don't think that's all too bad. I mean, all those Pokemon are fully evolved. What was Team Rocket looking for? Like a fucking Moltres? Meanwhile, some guy, who we would later find out was Ash's first-round opponent Mandy, was doing a whole bunch of little tricks for an audience, such as making multiple Pidgey appear out of only 2 Pokeballs. Damn, that's crazy. These tricks were attracting a large crowd of fans of all ages, which led Team Rocket to believe that he must be popular, and popular people tended to have rare Pokemon. They go up to him, still pretending to be the interviewers, and ask to interview him, informing him that they didn't know who he was. Mandy, seemingly an egotistical bastard, is in disbelief that Team Rocket hasn't heard of him before, insinuating that he really was a popular magician of some sort, or some sort of trickery dude, and states that since he was so popular, he would only accept an interview request if Team Rocket was from a notable news station. Jessie replies, lying that they were from the Lovely Charming Network, as she tries to flaunt her beauty at him to get him to believe her. But Mandy states that he's never heard of that network before, so it must be unpopular as fuck, so therefore, he walks away, pissing Jessie off immensely, as she had just flaunted her beauty at him for nothing. She's so mad that she wants to fucking kick the guy, but James restrains her, not wanting her to blow her disguise. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang were walking around Indigo Plateau, waiting for Ash's first battle, when Misty suggests to Ash that he should probably borrow some of her water Pokemon, as he only had Squirtle to battle in the water, and she doubted that he would be able to solo with a single Pokemon when the battles were 3-on-3. Ash, being as prideful as he was though, declined Misty's offer, confident that Squirtle would be enough to win the entire goddamn battle. Then, Ash overheard none other than Gary talking to his cheerleaders about how he was going to have his first round battle on the ice field. Gary then spots Ash and proceeds to make fun of him as usual, before sarcastically wishing him good luck, stating the only reason why he wanted Ash to win was because that way he could be the one to beat him, not some random Joe Blow trainer. Ash argued that he didn't need luck to win, with Gary simply walking away with his cheerleaders as he laughed, on his way to his ice field battle, continuing to sip the tea he had been drinking during this whole conversation. Fucking dude thinks he's a monk drinking calm-ass tea, and then he proceeds to be a dick. An angry Ash then hears his voice get called upon by the PA system outside, who informs him that there was a call waiting for him at one of the nearest computers. Ash hurries up, wondering who could be calling him, when it's revealed to be none other than Professor Oak from his lab. He suggests that we finally get to see Krabby have some screen time, due to him being a water type and Ash having to battle on the water field. Though reminds Ash that if he did decide to use Krabby, he would have to send one of his other Pokemon to him in exchange. Despite this, Ash accepts, expecting Krabby to be able to do more than any of his other Pokemon, despite Krabby not having any previous battle experience, and Oak then proceeds to leave the view of the phone call to go send Ash Krabby. With Oak gone, Ash's mom takes the opportunity to come on screen and ask Ash how he was doing, and also inform him that the whole neighborhood of Pallet Town was cheering for him, which led Ash to get a little embarrassed, now feeling even more pressure to do good. Ash then thanks Oak as he sends over Krabby, and proceeds to hang up the phone as his mom and all of Pallet Town give him one last cheer, and a little advice to make sure that he tries his best in all of his battles. Ash and the gang then return outside, where they're immediately greeted by none other than Mandy, who greets Ash kindly, but then proceeds to taunt him a little bit, saying that there's no way that Ash would be able to beat his ass, and joking that his hands were for Pokeballs, not his opponent's, when Ash asked him for a handshake. Mandy then takes his leave to prepare for the battle, as Ash becomes determined to stomp Mandy's overconfidence. Though acknowledges that he at least wasn't a total dick, Ash and the gang then go by a nearby restaurant to have some lunch, as they continue to talk about what Ash's strategy was going to be for the first battle. Ash was now adamant on mainly using Krabby, wanting to give it a chance to shine, but Misty and Brock were both concerned of this idea, reasoning that even though Krabby would have the environmental advantage, it didn't have any battle experience, and Ash was going against people who had defeated 8 gym leaders. Brock added that Ash was allowed to make the final decision, they weren't trying to force anything on him, but he reminded him that how you chose your Pokemon was very important, and that all factors should be taken into account, not just one, insinuating that Ash shouldn't just focus on the battlefield that he was in, but Krabby's level as well. As Ash proceeds to give his strategy a little bit more thought, he is then distracted by a TV in the restaurant, which was currently showing Gary being cheered for and interviewed after winning his first round battle in the ice field with ease. This just acted as a final piece of motivation for Ash to make sure that he wouldn't lose his upcoming battle, so he could prove to Gary and all of Pallet Town that he was strong after all. Meanwhile, on the water stage, the battle right before Ash's was about to finish, with one trainer being down to their last Pokemon and another trainer still having 2 left. The current matchup was between a Seeking and a Tentacruel, and the Seeking managed to win. The Seeking belonged to the trainer with 2 Pokemon still left, so that meant that that trainer had won the battle. Ash watched this battle finish as he awaited in the waiting room. His battle was up next, and he was nervous. Misty pointed this out, as Ash was literally shaking with nerves, but Ash countered that he wasn't nervous, not wanting to be embarrassed, and stated that it was instead due to the vibrations from the last battle. Ash then goes out of the waiting room and into the podium, with Mandy already standing on the other side, and Misty, Brock, and Team Rocket watching eagerly from the crowd, and Ash's mom, Oak, and all the Pallet Town residents watching from home. It was time for the battle to begin, as both competitors were introduced to the whole crowd. The crowd instantly all cheered for exclusively Mandy, due to knowing him from all of his tricks, as opposed to Ash, who no one even knew about. The crowd's favoritism only motivated Ash to prove himself even more, as he tried to send out his first Pokemon, but he then got distracted when he heard his name on the loudspeaker. It was Jessie talking, still in her newsperson persona, who had broken into the announcer's room to utilize the PA system so that they could tell Ash to beat Mandy and get revenge for them. Ironically, meaning that Team Rocket were some of Ash's biggest supporters. Unfortunately, though, they wouldn't be able to support Ash in person, as, due to breaking into the announcer's room, they were swiftly punished by the 4 Officer Jennies, who were assigned to guard the water area, as the 4 Officer Jennies carried them out of the stadium, much to their dismay and Brock's amazement at the fact that he got to see 4 beautiful Officer Jennies at once. Brock then proceeded to go full simp mode as he imagined a life with each of the 4 Officer Jennies individually, much to Misty's annoyance. As she proceeded to push Brock off again when he tried to jump in front of Ash and therefore take the attention off of him when he tried to get the Officer Jenny's attention. Anyways, with all of the distractions now gone, I mean seriously, we've gone through all the running gags, Team Rocket, Brock simping, the battle could now officially begin, and it did, as Mandy sent out his Exeggutor, and Ash in fact sent out his Krabby after all, despite Misty's warnings. Misty still maintained these warnings even after Krabby came out of the Pokeball, but Ash just tried his best to ignore them, informing her that he knew Krabby could do it. Exeggutor did the first attack, being a Psy-Wave, but Krabby managed to dodge it by jumping into the water. The Exeggutor then used the water against Krabby though, using its Psychic to create a whirlpool and trapping the Krabby inside. Ash, knowing Krabby was in danger, decides to substitute him out for Squirtle, but when he goes to recall Krabby, the Pokeball can't reach him, as the whirlpool is blocking anything from entering it. This flusters Ash, and Mandy takes the opportunity to get his Exeggutor to use an Egg Bomb, which rains a whole bunch of eggs down into the water, attacking the Krabby. Although Krabby does take damage, the eggs cause a whole bunch of water to splash on the Exeggutor, but unfortunately, the water splashing does absolutely nothing to it, with Exeggutor being part grass type, and grass beats water. Even though the water does no physical damage though, the water still splashes in the Exeggutor's eyes, which temporarily blinds it, allowing Krabby to take the chance to escape from the whirlpool and proceed to use Vice Grip on it, grabbing onto its leaves. This causes immense pain to the Exeggutor, so when Mandy orders it to use Hypnosis, it doesn't, as it's too busy running around trying to get Krabby to fall off of it, so the pain would be relieved. Krabby then uses a Leer while still hanging onto the leaves though, which freezes the Executor in place, meaning it was now frozen in place and in pain. This rendered the Executor pretty much defenseless, so Krabby was actually able to defeat it with a single stomp attack, as the ref declared Executor unable to battle. Misty and Brock, having severely doubted Krabby all this time, are immensely shocked to see it actually win, and are immensely shocked even more when they then see Krabby start to glow as it evolves into Kingler, having enough experience after only one fucking battle. You know what? I don't even care at this point, because this was an epic moment. Krabby finally got to do something instead of just sitting in the lab for the whole series. Let's go! Even Kingler was happy for itself, as it proudly stood over Executor's knocked out body, giving Ash a few seconds to learn about Kingler in his Pokedex. Mandy didn't want Ash to have the spotlight for too long, though, so he swiftly sent out his second Pokemon, being a Seadra, which Ash instantly used its Pokedex on. The Seadra then uses agility to speed for Kingler, and Kingler tries its best to counter the Seadra with a water gun, but unfortunately, it's useless as the Seadra continues trudging forward. Kingler then goes for a bubble, but unfortunately, that seems useless too, to Ash's dismay. However, one of the bubbles actually does do something, as Ash commands Kingler to use it again, so therefore, the Seadra can't dodge both bubble attacks, so although it dodges one, the other one sends it flying into the air. And once it was in the air, it couldn't defend itself, so Kingler took the opportunity to jump up and finish it off with Crab Hammer, knocking it out, much to Ash's happiness, as well as Misty, Brock, and the entire crowd, who cheered immensely. This meant that Ash had finally won over a lot of the crowd, and they weren't just entirely cheering for Mandy anymore. And hey, even Team Rocket was back, cheering for Ash. They'd managed to escape the Officer Jenny already. Damn, that's some shitty police work right there. Mandy then proceeds to send out his final Pokemon, which is none other than a Golbat. This causes Brock and Misty to panic, as Brock comments how Kingler would be weak to the Golbat due to Kingler being limited to being stuck to the ground, while Golbat could attack from above. Misty, knowing that electric attacks were strong against flying Pokemon, suggests that Ash use his Pikachu and switch out his Kingler, but Ash is still adamant at only using Kingler for this battle to let him shine. When Oak hears this over the TV, he smiles, happy that Kingler was finally getting some love by Ash. The battle begins as Kingler jumps down into the water, and Golbat plans to follow it by doing a takedown attack, but as it goes down, Kingler catches it off guard and tries to catch it with a Vice Grip as it jumps out of the water. However, Golbat uses Double Team to dodge the Vice Grip and then immediately flies back up and uses Razor Wind, which heavily damages the Kingler, which was on the ground, as opposed to in the air. With Kingler down, Golbat prepares to use a final attack, being a Mega Drain, to finish off the Kingler, which was weak to the Mega Drain due to it being a grass move. However, at the last second, Ash orders Kingler to use its Hyper Beam, which it does successfully, knocking out the Golbat, meaning Ash had won the battle, much to his immense happiness, as he cheers with joy, having actually managed to win his first round battle, despite everyone thinking that he wouldn't be able to, and runs up to his Kingler and immediately gives him a big hug as thanks. As for Mandy, he was really disappointed in the loss. However, he at least wasn't a dick about it. Brock and Misty cheer from the crowd, as everyone at Oak's lab cheers from home, with Ash's mom even tearing up in joy. As for Team Rocket, they were certainly happy to have had their revenge in a way against Mandy, but they were also happy for another reason, being the fact that Ash's Krabby had evolved, making it stronger now, which would make it more valuable in the long run when they tried to steal it next time. As Ash enjoys all the attention he was getting from the crowd, the announcers then shout over the PA system how Ash had managed to win the battle using only one Pokemon. This just further inflates Ash's ego as he proceeds to dance around in happiness. Misty and Brock get a little worried at this, as Brock, having read the Pokemon League handbook, remembered how it warned that trainers should always conduct themselves with dignity, meaning that they shouldn't brag or get overconfident, which Ash was now currently doing. Great.